4 days before she died, Brooke Devinney had already gone to police about him one more time. It still wasn't enough. On Father's Day morning, 2024, her own father was asleep in the room right next door, while, on the other side of that wall, his daughter and his unborn grandson were being killed by the one man who was supposed to protect them both. By the time it happened, Columbus police already had 2 active arrest warrants out for the man responsible. They just couldn't find him in time. This isn't a story about a stranger, or bad luck, or violence that came out of nowhere. This is the story of a warning system that worked exactly the way it was supposed to, right up until the one moment it actually mattered. Brooke and Devin Blair had what people around them called an on and off relationship. He was 24, she was 19, and by that spring she was pregnant with their son. Their history wasn't quiet. Police records show officers were called to Brooke's home at least 13 times in 9 months. By Brooke herself, by her parents, her brother, even neighbors who'd heard enough. That December, Blair attacked her outside their home, stripped her, dragged her by the hair, punched her, and held a knife on her while threatening to kill her. She reported it. In May of 2024, he pleaded guilty to felony domestic violence and to assaulting a police officer during that same arrest. Here's the part that's hard to accept. He wasn't sent to prison. He was released on an ankle GPS monitor, awaiting sentencing, and within about 2 weeks, he'd already violated the terms of that release. A new warrant went out for his arrest. He was still free, and Brooke was still with him. On June 12th, 4 days before her death, Blair assaulted Brooke again, this time in her car, stopped at a traffic light near an I-270 exit ramp. The next day, Brooke walked up to a police officer and reported it, in person. New charges followed: assault, aggravated menacing, 2 counts of domestic violence. By that Sunday morning, Devin Blair had 2 active warrants out for his arrest for domestic violence involving Brooke. Police just couldn't locate him before then. That Sunday, Father's Day, at 7:30 a.m., a relative inside Brooke's home texted 911 about a domestic violence attack in progress. When officers reached the house on Parkwick Drive, Blair was already running. He went over a fence, leaving his own backpack and phone behind, and vanished into the Riverbend neighborhood, tight backyards, narrow alleys, dead ends built almost for this exact purpose. Search teams spent hours combing the area, a police drone overhead, K9 units on the ground. Inside the house, Brooke had already been rushed to the hospital, fighting for her life and for her son's. Before I tell you what happened at that hospital and where officers finally found him, if you prefer true crime that waits for the truth instead of guessing at it, hit subscribe. This case gets harder before it gets any kind of justice. Brooke Devinney was pronounced dead at 8:45 that morning. Her unborn son was pronounced dead 4 minutes later. From the first text to 911 to the moment both of them were gone, less than 80 minutes had passed. What really gets me, every time I come back to this case, is the date, Father's Day. Brooke's own father was 1 room away when it happened, asleep, with no idea. The baby who died that morning would have made him a grandson he'd never get to meet, taken by the one person who should have wanted to protect them more than anyone. Blair was found hours later in the Georgian Heights neighborhood, near Cottrell Drive. He'd changed his clothes. He didn't go quietly. And somewhere in Columbus that week, 2 warrants with his name on them had already been sitting unserved, since before Brooke ever made that final call. 2 days after his arrest, Blair appeared in court and demanded a bond, talking over his own attorney until the judge gave him one, $11 million. Nobody paid it. Weeks later, at a follow-up hearing, a different judge ordered him held without any bond at all. It took just over a year for the case to fully close. In July of 2025, Devin Blair pleaded guilty to strangulation, 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of felonious assault. Combined with the case he was already free on when he killed her, the judge sentenced him to between 48 and 53.5 years in prison. He won't be eligible for release until he's in his 70s, at the earliest. In court, Blair apologized, saying he thinks about what he did every single day. Brooke's mother wasn't interested in his remorse. She told the courtroom, plainly, that no number of years would ever bring her daughter back, and that domestic violence has to be taken seriously long before it reaches this point, not after. I don't think this case needs me to add much else. The facts already make the argument on their own. 13 calls, a guilty plea, 2 warrants, 4 days. All of it sitting there, on paper, before the worst version of this story became the real one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.